Alrighty, so today's episode's a little bit different. We'll explain it as the episode starts, but hang around, we've got a package for the ute, so hang around and see what's in it. Do an intro? Sure. On this episode of Backyard Builds, we're in Tom's shitty blue ute, his HZ. There's a local Facebook group here in Canberra called Canberra Car Guys. They've organised a cruise today, so lunchtime cruise. We've done a bit of work on the Valiant this morning, so we're just heading out now. You want to talk to them about the ute while we're in it, or?
Oh, I suppose we could.
Give us the spiel.
So,
Corner's like a race car.
this is my 1979 HZ ute. I picked this up when I was a second year apprentice out of Goulburn. I paid a very measly $300 for it, which I actually bargained down from $500. It needed floor pans when I got it, so I threw those in, threw a better interior in it, which is now decrepit. It had little patches of rust here and there, but there was nothing serious about it. I pretty much just sort of shoehorned all the parts I needed to get it to run, and it already had good brakes and suspension in it, which was done by a previous owner prior to the bloke I even got it from. Got it running, got it registered, and the rest is all history. I've had so many adventures in this car, and it's actually the car that sort of helped me and Zach meet in the end.
Yeah, so Tom used to daily this every day, and I sort of seen it at Tech and worked out who drove it, and I started driving Uncle Tony, which is also a shitty blue ute, and me and Tom became friends from there, really, and Saxon was just along for the ride. He really had no choice. Tom and Saxon worked together, and yeah, it was done from there. So yeah. So obviously there's a new motor in it, so what do we got?
So this car's had a few motors, and because I used to drive the absolute wheels out of it. First motor shit the bed, blew the rings off cylinder 2, smoked like a train. So swapped that one over in a weekend. Second motor was the one, if you're a Thong Slappers viewer, you'll hear the story about the second motor on that. Stay tuned to Thong Slappers for that one.
I was in this seat when that didn't happen very well.
But it got us home. We ended up yanking that motor in the weekend and put the last motor that was in it, which actually came out of a friend's HK wagon. That motor was in here for the longest, right up until I towed the shit out of something with not a lot of oil in it. And I think I actually dudded a lobe on the cam, or I flat spotted a spot, and it used to rattle like no tomorrow. And it was really bad in high revs, which was normally where the ute was at. So I pulled that motor, and I had this one sort of in pieces from years ago. I bought it. What it is, it's a blue motor bottom end, so it's a 3.3. There's a fully counterweighted crank, fully balanced as well. It's got Starfire rods in it. It's got dished pistons in it, which is slightly odd for this combo. But they're about a 7cc dish, if memory serves me right. It's 40 thou over, which makes it a 206. It's got a 9-pot red motor head on it, so it's actually got a funny head gasket to make that work, because a couple of the holes don't line up, but other than that it bolts on. It runs Crow 35617 cam. It's about 111 degrees lobe separation, about 467 thou lift at 50 thou. Runs a single side draft cane manifold with a 45 DHLA auto on it. It's probably not enough car motor, but I digress, and I seem to be enjoying it pretty well so far. It also has quite a fair amount of port work done to it. It has XU1 size valves, so they're not insanely oversized, but they're bigger than standard. It has a lot of work done to the short turn, and a lot of the chamber is opened up. It's also had the post removed and sleeved. So if you're into your Holden 6s in the intake, it's quite a thick cast post in them. That's been machined out, and a thin sleeve steel post has been pressed in. This head flowed about a potential of 257 horsepower on a flow bench. You could probably use a little bit more work in the short turn, I'm told, but for what I'm doing and straightening it, it'll be just fine for us. It's backed up by a 5-speed Celica gearbox with like a heavy duty clutch, and it has its third Bancho diff as well. It's about all it is really. It was just a good, solid, reliable daily for me as an apprentice. I could throw my tools and all my shit in the back, and it'd start and get me home.
Once the motor's running properly, that banjo is gonna go to the grave as well. So catch that on another episode of Backyard Builds.
We'll pro pegger the fuck out of it.
Pro pegger for days. Alright, so we'll keep going. We'll do some filming when we get there, have a chat to a few guys, take you along for the cruise, have a look at Johnny's shed, and go from there.
Yeah, oh, that's it. Have you seen how finished off that shading? Yeah, that's exactly what it's all. Some sort of thing like that. I even thought about doing a whole wall and a whole fence panel.
Alright.
So we're here at Johnny Gonzalez's place today and just checking out his collection of signs and memorabilia. Tell us where it all started, Johnny.
Oh, look, I suppose where it all started is when I was a little kid. There was a neighbour lived up the lane from us in New South Wales, in Wellington, and I used to go around to his garage, and I was just fascinated with anything and everything to do with that garage.
Yeah.
And I don't know, years ago, like time passed, and I was always interested in like old stuff. I thought I'd love to get an old petrol pump. And then I was coming back from Melbourne once and I spotted this petrol pump in a ditch. I've restored it since, but in fact it took me 30 years to restore it properly. But yeah, I found that dumped in a ditch on the side of the road and brought home. That's the first thing I ever collected. Later on I found a ram which I put on top, but yeah, basically that's the first item, and it kind of started from there, and then I just got more and more into it. It's probably actually my third collection because I've sold off a few times. But
sort of snowballed from there, didn't you, Johnny?
Yeah.
What's your most prized possession, do you reckon?
Oh, look, people always say to you, what's the thing you like the most? But it's really hard to choose a favourite thing. There's a couple of like real standout items. One of the most incredible things, I suppose, is this. This is a lubritorium, Shell lubritorium, and that would have been outside a service station in the 20s. It has bifold doors on it, and they close these doors. They would have locked it up at night. Very sought after item by collectors. Very, very hard to get. This came from Griffith in New South Wales. It was missing the sign at the top, the lube chart, and one of the pumps. And with a little bit of searching and a little bit of luck and a little bit of help from some fellow collectors, I was able to complete it. But I really need to thank Timmy Dan for that one, because Timmy was onto it first and he couldn't land the deal, and he gave up and he said, Johnny, you give it a go. And so I was pretty happy with that.
It's pretty neat.
It is. I suppose another interesting piece is probably the petrol pump there that says Erie. Yeah. So that's the Erie pump on the left. That pump took me about a year to get. That's an example of the first ever electric petrol pumps we had in Australia.
Okay.
Took me about a year to get a guy to convince him to sell it to me. It was covered in grey paint, and I loaded it in the back of my ute, drove back from Sydney. It was a rainy day, and I stopped for petrol and I rubbed the grey paint, and it started to come off. So I got it home, spent a weekend, and I rubbed it back to the original paintwork. So I was very, very happy to save that pump. You know.
That's a hell of a find. I've noticed you've got a few pedal cars around too.
Yeah.
What's the story behind the pedal car fascination?
Yeah, look, any old toys are always sought after.
They're very collectible. They appeal to everyone.
They do. This one here is about 1936 Cyclops Packard. That's a Depression era toy. It would have been a very, very expensive toy in its day. It was the top of the Cyclops range. And this one is, as you can see, unrestored, original condition, and that makes it extremely desirable.
Yeah.
In fact, a restored one would be worth less than this car.
Yeah, really? Okay. It's pretty neat.
While we're on the subject of toys, I'll show you this. This is a tethered racing car. This is a 1938 dueling Mercury. It's powered by a 10cc Denimite motor. You can see the spark plug there, so it's points ignition. And the reason we've got the wire on the top here is that's wired to the ignition switch, and this thing would race on a circular track tethered by a wire bridle, and as it came back round the track, they'd stick a rag or a broom out there to kill the ignition, which would cut the engine and stop the car. Very, very sought after. It's a magnesium body, just an absolute beautiful item as far as I'm concerned.
It's a hell of a collection, Johnny.
Yeah, I'm pretty happy with it.
Yeah.
Thanks for showing us today, Johnny.
No worries, boys. Anytime.
Thank you. Alrighty, so if you've stuck through the video for this long, you've obviously wanted to see what was in the box. So, package came today. Postman brought a package from Golby's in Toowoomba. Pretty sure they're in Toowoomba, in Queensland. Thankfully, it got across the border. So, Golby's were really awesome to deal with. Rang them, told them what we're doing. They gave us a lot of help with sizing. So let's open it. I don't even know if the box is going to say what it is. There it is.
Oh, our friends at Borg Warner. Here we go. Made in the good old US of A. Not China. So what have we got in the box there, Zach?
So once I get it open, fuck, they wrapped it good. We have a Borg Warner SXE 300, which is a S366, so 66mm turbo, 90mm inducer. Should do pretty well what we want to do. Alright, well, leave it with me and I'll cut it out and then we'll have a look at it properly.
Bag one.
Alright.
That's a hell of a V-band.
Well done, V-band.
Sweet.
That'll be the exhaust.
Well, let's just go for box two. We'll work our way to the biggest.
Alright, so that's the back side. So, dual entry. .0 AR. Should do what we needed to do. Next thing we're going to buy is a wastegate.
Probably look at a tile. TIA or whatever they are.
Tile.
Tile.
Maybe some Go Fast bit stuff. Wouldn't mind using Australian made. On that side of things anyway. Alrighty.
Only instructions.
Only destructions.
Job to get the turbo out. Holy smokes. What do you reckon, Zach?
Looks like the right size. Should get the Valiant going a little bit. Alright. So we went the SXE, so billet, compressor wheel. Yeah. And the fun bit, making the manifold to put it on. So that'll be next episode, we'll start that. Stick around and see how we go.
You got to do the boosty noises.